Let's just whip right into a safety meeting. What do you say? Get this thing done. This is a scintillating topic. It's asphalt. Hit the lights for me, please. Okay, I'll read the introduction. Asphalt safety. Asphalt is a petroleum-based substance used in paving, roofing, and pipe covering. Comes in two forms. Straight run asphalt, which is a solid mixed with a solvent. It's used mostly on roads. Air blown or oxidized asphalt, which is used for roofing and pipe covering. Asphalt's everywhere, but it must be treated with caution. Okay. Angela, would you start for us on hazards?
Asphalt can be dangerous in several ways. Skin contact. Asphalt is often heated to extremely high temperatures. These high temperatures will cause painful and severe burns. Chemicals in the asphalt may cause skin irritation.
Yeah, keep going, please.
Fumes. Irritation of the eyes and throat. Exposure to hydrogen sulfide, which causes headaches, dizziness, and unconsciousness.
Jacob.
Fire hazard. Liquids, molten asphalt, and liquids will create violent eruptions. Asphalt easily catches fire. Storing. Because asphalt catches fire easily, store away from heat, sparks, and open flame. Do not smoke where asphalt is stored. Bond and ground the containers during transport to reduce the possibility of static initiated fire or explosion.
Ben.
Conflict. Always check the safety data sheet, SDS, to know for sure the safest ways to handle the asphalt you are using that day, and keep these general tips in mind. Never lean over a pedal. Avoid breathing in the fumes. Don't eat, drink, or smoke around asphalt. Wear proper PPE like face shields, gloves, boots or safety shoes, long sleeves and long pants. Be sure you have the proper type of fire extinguishers on hand. Do not carry buckets of asphalt up ladders. Try not to disturb the skin part of the asphalt in the kettle as it's heating up. Disturbing the skin could cause more healing.
Wow. Miguel, would you read this first aid, please?
Hot asphalt on the skin. Apply cold water back to burns. Do not remove asphalt from skin. Seek medical attention. Cold asphalt on skin. Remove with mineral oil. Inhaling the fumes. Get fresh air as soon as possible. If the victim is unconscious, seek medical attention immediately. Eye contact, immediately flush with water for 15 minutes.
A long time to flush the water. Conclusion. Asphalt can be very dangerous, even though it's widely used. Remember to properly handle asphalt so you can avoid injuries. Hazards to your health. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anecdotes regarding asphalt from the burned by asphalt or been involved in an asphalt fire or thrown a glass of water into a asphalt kettle, hot asphalt kettle. It's kind of like, I would imagine it's kind of like what happens when you throw any kind of water into a pot of molten lead. I happen to know what happens there because I used to be a printer. And when I was learning my trade in high school, we had a linotype machine. A linotype machine, back when letter set was king, that is typeface inked, and then a paper put over that, and then a roller rolled in the paper. It's called letter set. And the actual metal, make the letters out of metal. Linotype machine makes it. And so you type, and as you type the copy or what you wanted to print, it would make the letters, and they were made out of solid lead. And they melted down easy, and they were soft, malleable, and they cooled really quickly. And then you would set those, and set typeface. And that's a whole other thing. But the linotype machine had a pot of molten lead, and was the first thing, you know, you were told as a student was don't no water in lead pot, because of course, just tell any teenager don't do something. All they hear is do it. So yeah, I can't remember if it was a little bit of water thrown this way or some spit in, but man, boom, like a mini explosion and then droplets of molten lead flying out of the pot. And you definitely don't want to have molten lead on your skin or molten anything on your skin. Yeah, molten asphalt would be really bad, like getting tarred and feathered inadvertently. Would be bad. Yeah, generally, you know, unless you're planning to do roofing, you would use some, you know, hot tar, or you'd use asphalt, you know, hot pot to do a hot tar roof, hot mop roof. That's still done. You know, roofers pull those pots behind them, and then of course asphalt the streets. Unless you're a paver, you're probably not. Sorry. You're probably not working with asphalt. So, but it does off gas, so just be careful around asphalt. Just be safe, period. Any other questions or anything?
Where or when is it used for pipes?
They certain pipes are covered in asphalt. I think gas pipes are covered in an asphalt emulsion.
That is like on the streets or?
No, they would be buried pipes. They would be buried pipes to keep them from rusting.
Yeah, right, but I meant, sorry, not in properties, right? Or
Yeah, I can't think of any. Well, for instance, one thing they may be talking about is that prior to ABS, the black pipe that we use for our waste, which is, we use all ABS for our waste. So your main waste is 4-inch ABS, showers 2-inch, maybe your vanities are 1.5 inch. And they all go to your main waste, your main sewer, which is now 4-inch, could be 5-inch ABS, but it used to be Orangeburg or Vermica. Orangeburg or clay. So clay was clay, and 8 or 10-foot sections with a, you know, with a hub. Vermica, I can't remember what Vermica was. Orangeburg is something else, but Vermica is just basically asphalt impregnated paper. So they made sewer pipe out of asphalt impregnated paper. And they do use an asphalt emulsion coating of a variety of things, you know, to keep the metal from rusting. And then, you know, when you tar, it's just, you know, it's basically petroleum. It's around for a long time. It's nasty stuff. It's really hard. And by the way, any kind of oil, think about it. Doesn't have to be mineral oil. Just like beach tar, you can use mineral oil, baby oil, olive oil, Crisco, any kind of oil. Peanut butter oil. Peanut butter. Take it out too. So no, nothing else about asphalt safety from the peanut gallery. Okay, let's go right back to modules. Where are we? We're in week 3. We're gonna do a review. Well, we're gonna continue reviewing section 1. We'll whip through the end of multiplying and getting and dividing whole numbers, and then we'll be at fractions. So I just wanted to get the whole numbers out of the way. We'll get into fractions. We'll get into that tonight. We're also, one thing I haven't kind of jived with yet, but I'm working on to get it jived. And that is if we go to resources, course schedule. Okay. We go to course schedule. This is a work in progress. I put this in a different format than I've ever done it before. And this was Patrick's course schedule. The dates are right on this. And I mean, I've told you this before. And I'm working on making what we do germane. So this number 3 today, week number 3, we are gonna mess around with tapes a little bit. And if you didn't bring a tape, I have tapes next door. I have one in my car. I have one here. We can look at tapes, but let's do tapes and then we'll do the book stuff. So raise your hand if you don't have a tape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I would have to go to my car.
Yeah, go to your car. And you know what the tapes are, Louis?
Yeah.
Here, take one of you guys, Dylan, you know, go in that classroom. Grab that whole bucket or that soft container of tapes. We'll play around with tapes. And then why don't you, let's get back to our. Let's get this. Yeah, let's look at tapes for a bit. So everybody got your tape at home? I'm gonna grab your tapes. You guys got tape measures. Here's the tape. Somebody's been busy using it.
He's like grabbing the wall.
Of course. You just grab and take it.
Something like a wall was at work.
It's the colors.
I'll take it. I should have.
Why is what?
Oh, no, this tape just severely
Somebody's doing
used
short cuts on the.
and everything's all in the 32 spot.
So there's a lot of different tape measures. So before I get lost, I'll make sure that Jesus, did you come? Yeah? Jesus Barreto, you here? Doesn't look like it. How about Austin? Did you make it?
I did.
Yes. Austin, do you have a tape? We brought some tapes in here for you if you didn't bring a tape. And Dylan's got them over there in that Husky container. You guys hopefully have tape measures available? Yep. Okay. And so Jesus, no, Joel Santos? Joel, did you show up? Before I get into tapes, the tape measuring.
No, his block build everything to, yeah, to make everything has to be perfect. He used to fix his countertop and stuff.
So, before I get into tapes, I'm just gonna do a brief thing about tapes, and then we're gonna get back in this book for a minute, just because I have it on there, and I don't want to forget to do it, but I've mentioned to you this book before, The Four Agreements. And it's a book I really like. It's kind of come back into my life. I took a workshop at service, faculty in service for the spring semester, and it was on the Four Agreements and related it to teaching. So I'm gonna tell you the Four Agreements again, and I'm gonna read just something like a paragraph from one of the chapters. So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. Second agreement is to don't take anything personally. The third is to don't make any assumptions. And the fourth is always do your best. So just to give you a little bit of this first agreement. First agreement is the most important one. It's also the most difficult one to honor. It's so important that with just the first agreement, you'll be able to transcend the level of existence I call heaven on earth. First agreement is to be impeccable with your word. It sounds very simple, but it's very, very powerful. Why your word? Your word is the power that you have to create. Your word is the gift that comes directly from God. So I don't want to get all religious on you, but in the beginning of it, and it goes on to talk about biblically how the Gospel of John talks about the creation of the universe. The word is not just a sound, and it's not that I wouldn't talk about religion or God or anything to you. I just don't want to offend you in case you find that offensive. So that's not what we're here for. But this is something. These four agreements, if it resonates with you, and if it's something you're interested in, it's something that I guarantee you will improve the quality of your life. The word is not just a sound or a written symbol. The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events of your life. You can speak. What other animal on the planet can speak? The word is the most powerful tool you have as a human. It's a tool of magic. But like a sword with two edges, your word can create the most beautiful dream, or your word can destroy everything around you. One edge is the misuse of the word, which creates a living hell. The other edge is the impeccability of the word, which will only create beauty, love, and heaven on earth, depending on how it's used. Your word is pure magic, and misuse of your word is black magic. And probably the worst misuse of your word is gossip. We all participate in it. Speaking for myself, I love gossip. It's like nothing better than talk shit about somebody, right? Especially when they deserve it. But it's not good. It doesn't do me any good ever. It certainly doesn't do the relationship, if I ever might have a relationship with that person, good. And it's black magic, man. It's so powerful. It's like, so you know why fantasies are so incredible? They're so incredible because they have no consequences. Your fantasies have no consequences. Did you know that? Until they become real in the real world. So when they're still in your head, they're in your head, they're fantasies. There's no consequences. You have not taken one single action. Now you might argue that thinking is an action. Oh, okay, I'll buy that. But until you actually gets out of your head into the real world, it's not an action, therefore no consequences. The minute your fantasy even skirts the edge of reality by stepping into it with a word, and you start saying words to describe your fantasy, now you've entered into the realm of reality, of which there are consequences. And there are always consequences in the realm of reality. out here. Actions have consequences. Every action has a consequence. So enjoy your fantasies because they have no consequences. And you can get away with your fantasies. But when you start thinking about making fantasies, I'm talking about good, bad, ugly, and different. It doesn't really matter. Fantasies are fantasies. But when they become real in the real world, be careful because they do become real. Your words are actions, and your words can create. That's how you create. You start talking about it. You brainstorm it. You exchange ideas. You start writing things down. You start taking actions that stem from your thoughts, but they become actions. As long as you're thinking about it, I don't care how great your ideas are. They're not going to do anything. As long as they're locked in your head, they're not going to do anything. The minute you start typing them, they're words. They're words on paper, but they're words. They might not be spoken, but they're words. So just try to be impeccable with your word. And it's a simple agreement that you make with yourself, but it's really far-reaching. And it means so much more than just trying to tell the truth. So that's our couple of paragraphs from 4 agreements.
That reflection, your explanation mainly came from that book and years of experience, of course.
Yeah,
Or
well,
other
when I'm
sources.
talking about the word and what I wrote about the magic and the power of the word, yes, pretty much in this book, but I've always felt that way. And that whole concept of fantasy, reality, consequences, that's all me. Now, I may have heard that somewhere, but I can't tell you specifically. I just came up with that one day, like, wow, I'm in my fantasy world and I'm safe. I haven't taken the action, so, you can't, women would love to take you down about your fantasies. Just hold tight, man. As long as they're in your head, you haven't shared them, they're your fantasies and nobody can take you down. There's no consequences. Your wife can't say, I know you're having a fantasy about her. And you may be having a fantasy about her. But as long as you don't, what? You don't have a right to my fantasies. At least my wife doesn't have a right to my fantasies. She is one of my fantasies for sure. Okay, now where was I? Out of the realm of fantasy. Tapes. There's all kinds of tapes, tape measures. I meant to bring a bunch, actually, when I didn't. I meant to bring my wife's cloth tape. So it rolls up, they're about 1/2 inch. They're cloth. They have metal ends. They're used for, sewing and cutting patterns and everything you do with fabric. They're great for measuring diameters of wrists and, for measuring parts of your body, for clothing and stuff like that. There are longer tapes. There's, now, we're not going to talk tonight about laser measuring tools. At one point, we will be talking about laser measuring tools, but not tonight. But there are tools that measure distance with lasers. This is one of the longer tapes that you might use. It's a 100-foot tape. It's a Love Pen Play standard. I've got several of these. One of them is leather bound. I've probably had it for 50 million years. They're great things to have. They're like all tapes. Like all tape measures, they have a place that you can hook it. Right? Hook that guy on. Stretch the tape. And this tape reads in whole inches and eighths. So it goes, 10 1/8 1/4, 10 3/8, 10 1/2, 10 5/8, 10 3/4, 10 7/8, 11. 1/8 inch. So when you're measuring things that are using 100-foot tape in, 2 1/8 of an inch is fine. You don't really need to get any tighter than that. This is the tape measure you're all probably pretty familiar with, right? Except when we bought a bunch of tape measures for Classroom 24, for the projects that we're doing with y'all, all y'all. By the way, that's the plural of y'all. Plural of y'all is all y'all. No, probably none of you knew that, did you? Some people go Ewans. What? So this is, did you bring this? Yeah. Okay. So this is a Stanley. This is a Stanley. This is 25. This is 25. This is seems like a little fatter, right? A little smaller profile, but fatter.
3 inches.
There's lots of not tape, but not. Probably because it's a stamp. Yeah, I like that too.
Yep.
That's the lock.
Yep.
Wait, where's the tape? So it's always locked. You gotta push that. That's just nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. And it's 3 inches. That's my main argument, the tapes. My main arguments with tapes. I don't see it here on this, because this is made in China. They're probably all, what is it made in China, right? This might be 3 inches too. That might be 3 inches too. It doesn't say it, but this says 3 inches. Right there, 3 inches. So does that one. It says etched in there. It says 3 inches. And what that 3 inches means is measure outside, facing the case, right? What all your tape measures should have in common is a rivet that allows this end to move. And it allows it to move the exact thickness of this piece of metal. So that movement in the rivets, the 3 rivets that hold this on, that it moves exactly the thickness this is. So whatever that thickness is, and I'll tell you what it is. This is another measuring tool. It's not a tape measure, but in terms of calculating and measuring, this is one I use as a cabinet maker almost as much as a micrometer. Micrometer measures in 64ths, hundredths, and millimeters. This is really about 3/64. So that's how much that guy moves, 3/64. And it moves because most of you have this figured out. Some of you maybe talking about. So when you stretch the thing, right? It's measuring from the inside. That part. So I measure this outside to outside at 40+ inches. Now, if I want to measure inside, I can do it like this and read it. It's right on 36. And again, but now I'm measuring from here, right? Not from here. So it's pushed in the thickness of this. So it still reads good. Now, if I don't want to measure like this, or for something's precluding me measuring like this, I can measure like this, 33 inches. But I know it's 36 because I can add 3 inches to this. Now I have, the reason why this is a thing for me is I can't tell you how many aftermarket tapes I've seen that want you to add 3 1/4 or 3 3/8, 3 3/8 even. Now, would you rather add 3 3/8 to 8 9/16, or would you rather just add 3 inches? It's just insane, right? You just read the tape. 22.5 is 25.5 because you've got 3 inches of tape. And you kind of learn your tape. You learn, how to put that tape. You've got it all the way. And always check yourself. Check yourself, check yourself. Measure twice. Measure 3 times. Measure however many times you feel comfortable before you cut. Okay, so tape measures are generally divvied up in 16ths. So the fractions we're going to be working with are going to go down to 16ths, but we're going to take them beyond that. We're going to take them to 30 seconds. I want you to learn to work and at least be able to work in 30 seconds. So when we get into fractions, we're going to get into 30 seconds, even though tapes only go to 16ths. So that instead of saying 3/16 plus, right, you can say 7/32 and know what you're talking about. And if you're talking to other like-minded people that you're giving these dimensions to, they'll know what you're talking about too. Like carpenters, there's a whole vernacular, carpenter vernacular. So, like 6 and a 16th, well, 6 and a 16th is 6 and 2/32. A little bit more than that, a 32nd more would be 6 and 3/32. Now, a carpenter might say 6 and a 16th plus. To me, that's 6 and 3/32. That plus, or short plus, or sometimes we call them blonde ones and red ones. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, those are pubic hairs. But they're not called that. That's too polite. So I won't use the word here. My wife basically beat that word out of me. I can't use it, but a red one's really thin, the blonde one's a little thicker, the black one's a little thin. So plus a hair, right? Plus a hair. So when you're a carpenter, you go, it's 24 and 7/16 and a blonde one. You know exactly what it's talking. Needs a blonde, so a little more than the number he said, but not to the next 16. Okay, that's a little more fact. So there's not a whole lot that I can tell you about a tape measure. They read in 16ths and they read in whole inches, and this thing slides. The other thing I can say is that if you notice that all the letters on my tape measure, probably yours too, Jacob, are black. All the whole numbers are black, right? Down here, and up here they're red, and then down here on these whole numbers, they're red here, they're red here, they're red on 16 increments of 16. That's because studs, most stud walls are framed on 16 centers. So you have a layout your eye can see at those where they're red. And then the red up on top is for you to read. So this, what I'm pointing to right here, this 5 on my tape, it's 17 inches. But the reason I'm pointing to the 5 is because a lot of denominant numbers are called out. As a matter of fact, in carpentry, especially rough carpentry, as framing carpentry and in forming and foundation work, you're not going to have a measurement like this. You're not going to call it 75 inches. You're going to have this measurement. You're not going to call it 75 inches. You're going to call it 6'3". And if you look at your tape measure, you see the big black 6 on the feet. They're all here on top, and then following them are red numbers. Those are the inches. So corresponding to the 75 big inch number below. Can you guys all see that? I don't know if you can. Am I making this clear to you guys? I keep forgetting I got to zoom. Let me know if you can't see stuff, or you want me to. If you want to zoom, no pun intended. If you want me to zoom in on this, or there's something you want me to clarify, I'll be happy to. Okay, so the tape measures you guys have too should have your inches, whole inches, and fractions of an inch down on one side of the tape with red numbers for the inches at 16 increments: 16, 32, 48, 60, 72, right? 16 or 80. I can do this: 48, 64, 80. There you go. And then up on top are your whole feet, and they usually have a big arrow. Stanley has a big old arrow, right? So 2'5", 29 inches. Also tells you, if you want to read down, it's also 29 inches. Okay, so in carpentry, especially rough, your denominant number is going to be called out feet and inches rather than all inches. And as we get a little further along in here, you'll see how we add denominant numbers, disparate denominant numbers, different. So how we can add 15 inches to 3'6", or how we can add, different things. We can add, we can multiply feet. And we multiply denominant numbers like feet and inches, like for instance, 3'3", right? I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but 3'3" is 3'3". Now, we haven't gotten to that, and I'm going to stop this part of the lecture pretty soon and get back and then finish the whole numbers. But in denominant numbers, you can't multiply. You cannot multiply or divide disparate denominant numbers. In other words, 3'3", you can't do anything with that. You can't multiply that by 3'3". You've got to break it into one or the other. So you can make it into all inches, right? You can take 3'3", which is 36 inches plus 3 inches. That's 39 inches. And you can use that and then get a number, get a quotient, get a sum, whatever, and then divide that into 12 into that and get feet with a leftover in inches, you can do that, make it back into a foot in inches. Or you can turn the inches into a decimal. That's generally what we do. So 3'3" as represented by a decimal is what?
2.25.
3.25. 3 inches is 0.25 or a quarter of a foot. And remember what I told you last week? To find out the decimal equivalent of any fraction is to simply take, and the fraction in this case being, what does a 3 inches, what part of a foot is 3 inches, right? Is represented by a decimal. So you got to make it into a fraction. 3/12, because there's 12 inches in a foot, and it's 3 inches over 12, right? And it's actually, that's not right. Or that's not right. That's not right. And it's not that. It's really, but you're still doing 3 divided by 12. So 0, and this is getting into maybe some division that some of you don't know, right? So it's still, yeah, so that still works. I mean, you can still take 4 inches. What is 4 inches? 4 inches is 4/12, right? 4/12. If you reduce that, that's a third, and 3 into 1 is 0.333. So I got ahead of myself. We're gonna go slower and get back up to that. 'Cause some of you don't know how to convert. And some of you don't know how to add decimal fractions. Some of you know it like the back of your hand, but you're gonna have to bear with some of us that don't. Okay, as we all catch up with each other and get up to speed. So let's finish our whole number by going to the textbook. Going to where we left off and multiplying whole numbers. Hey, yeah, you guys won't need it. So you're everybody at home, the Zoom people, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, you guys can't see it yet because I haven't pulled down the thing I'm seeing. I never have figured out a way to make this page bigger to get rid of the tabs. I mean, I can make the page bigger, but I can't get rid of those damn canvas tabs. Okay. That's not going to work either because you can't see the whole page. Okay, one more time, lights, please.
All of them or just half?
Do them all. Still pretty light out. Okay. Remember where we left off?
I think we finished multiplication.
Did we finish it?
I think we were getting drowsy during
I
multiplication.
think we were, yeah. Let's just see, carrying units. So does everybody know how to do that? Is anybody here that isn't familiar with how to carry and multiplication? So everybody knows how to multiply longhand. So you can take and do sums on the board. So just, if you don't, and you're embarrassed to see me later, but you know that you can take a sum like, say, 65 times 128. 5 times 8 is 0, carry the 4, right? 5 times 8 is 40, carry the 4. 2 times 5 is 10, so that's 14, carry the 1 is 2, 0. Now 6 times 8 is 48, carry the 4 is 2 times 6 is 12, that's 16, carry the 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Am I doing this right?
I think the first number is wrong.
Think what now?
The 240 is not 128 times 5. So that when you multiply 5 times 1, that was a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Should be like
Where did I get
7.
2? No, you're right. So that's 2, so that should have been 10, right? No, it should have been
7.
6. 6. Yeah.
Yes.
Right, 640. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, 500, 528, that's 600, 640. I have to check this in my head. 00. So, and that's 601. That's 7. So it's 2, right? 482 carry the 1 is 7. 13 carry the 1 is 8. 8320. Somebody check that for me. I'll check it for myself.
It is.
Yeah, see, I don't do longhand. I do it in my head. If I can do it in my head, I use a calculator. And I use a calculator when I'm figuring takeoffs and calculating material costs. I use a calculator with what?
Tape.
Yeah, with a tape printout. So I can take my tape, pull it off, check all my numbers, make sure that I actually enter the numbers in the calculator. So I think everybody knows how to multiply. That's great. So we'll just whip on through multiplication here. And maybe we'll do a couple of, I think we did some of the problems in multiplying denominant numbers. So rules for multiplying a denominant number differ from addition and subtraction and are applied based on the following. So what's a denominant number? Give me an example.
6 feet.
It's something that's, it's the number and then so it denominates something. Feet, inches, square feet. Cubic feet. Okay, so rule 1, when multiplying a denominant number by a whole number, the denominant number's unit of measure is applied to the answer. Okay, so that makes sense. If you're multiplying 12 times 8 feet, it's 96 feet. Rule 2, when multiplying more than one denominant number, they must have the same type of unit measure if possible. For example, when multiplying 2 lengths, both measurements should be the same units. The unit of measurement is then squared. The subfloor measures 28 feet wide by 52 feet long. When multiplied together, the floor is said to contain 1,456 square feet. Okay, so that's what the square comes in. So interesting. So if you're multiplying 2 lengths, both measurements have to be the same units. So they have to be in feet or they have to be in inches or yards or miles. And then you square it. So what is 20 feet times 40 feet?
800 square feet.
Say it again.
800 square feet.
What's 3 feet by 7 feet? What's 3 feet by 7 feet by 2 feet? 42 what? Thank you. So maybe that gets to rule 3. Let's see. Calculate door casing when installing new trim in a home under construction. A carpenter's tasked with installing casing on 22 doors. Prior to his installation, he must first order the casing for the doors. Once he determines each door requires 5 pieces of casing, calculating a total is determined through multiplication. So 5 pieces per door. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. That's exactly right. Where does that come from, by the way? How does he get 5 pieces of casing per door? Can somebody explain me? Come on. Surely some of you brainiacs will explain that to me. Okay, so a regular interior door. We're talking, did he say interior door? Yeah. As opposed to an exterior door. Because an exterior door, you can't count on this because your casing may not be the same on the outside as it is on the inside. And as a matter of fact, more likely than not, it's not the same. But on an interior door, your casings or door trim is going to be the same on both sides. So you're going to have 1, 2 legs on one side. You're going to have 1, 2 legs on the other side. That's 4 legs. And then you're going to have a head. And you get 1 leg to get 2 heads out. Your legs are going to be 7-footers or thereabout. because we're talking about probably 80-inch doors, right? 6'8". See your casing's 3.5. Actually, a 7-footer is just cutting it. So you got to be careful with 3.5-inch casing, right? That 80 inches of door, you got a slight reveal, and you got 3.5 inches casing. That's 83.5 right there. So you only got a 1/2-inch plate. So 7-foot stick should work. And then typically your interior doors are, none of them are over 3 feet. They're usually 2.6, 2.4, 2.6, 2.8. So 28 inches, 30 inches, and 32 inches. And 2 32-inch heads would be 64. But then if you got 3.5-inch casing, that's 7 inches aside. So that's 64 and 7 is 71. So you're golden with a 7-foot piece, right? What about 36? So 2 36s is going to be 72. And then actually you're going to need 14 inches on top of that. Because you're going to need 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, right? So 14 and 72 is what? It's 86. It's 86. Will the 7-foot stick work for you?
No.
It won't, will you? It will it? So that's all fine and dandy if this guy doesn't have a whole lot of 3-foot doors on the inside. Now, if he has a few 3-foot doors, and mostly 2.6, 2.8, 2.4s, he can cut a 3-foot and a 2.6, right? He can cut a 3-foot and then a lesser door and get that hit. So if he's cutting a 3.0 door and a 2.6 door, that's 30 inches, and 36 is 66, and then the 14 is 80, then he's golden. He's got 4 inches to play with. So that's all the stuff you want to be thinking about. You don't want to be thinking about, yeah, I remember that, man. It's 5 legs. We just buy 5 7-foot legs per opening, interior openings to get case both sides and we're golden. Oh, yeah. Did I mention the openings are 36 inches? I think casing's 3.5. So. But it also could work. What if your casing is streamlined? Streamlined casing is 1 5/8. All right. So again, both sides. So 1 5/8, 1 5/8, 1 5/8. That's 3 1/4 twice the 6.5, 6.5. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's only 6.5. 6.5, and your 72 is 78.5. You're golden with an 84-inch or a 7-foot stick. So you see how just something simple as a cased opening, door opening, there's all this math involved. And especially when you're starting to do multiples, because you want to do multiples wherever you can. Why would that be? It's for a variety of reasons. It simplifies things. It's the same number. So you're not measuring a whole bunch of times. It's the same number. So whenever you can do multiples, do multiples. Whenever you can make things the same size, make them the same size. Like when we do, I'll show you guys at one point when we do, before we do rafters, and either right before or after I show you how to cut stairs, I'll show you how to lay out equally a balustrade on a handrail, a level deck, level railing. A balustrade, equal spacing on balusters. And why was I telling you this? Because I have a way of doing a balustrade or guardrail on a deck that if you lay it out and execute it right, you can do the minimum amount of cuts, and it just comes out primo, and you don't have a whole bunch of different cuts and a whole bunch of different measurements. You make it so that all of your balusters are the same. I'll show you that. I'll do that. I think we might even watch my video. I think I've done that video.
What's the distinction between interior and exterior doors?
Well, exterior doors are meant to take the weather, and interior doors aren't.
No, I just mean in terms of casing.
You rarely case exterior doors. They're usually have some kind of a ground on them. The ground is stucco. Or they case, or you may case them, but they're rarely are your interior casing. If you do case them, they're a bigger casing. They're a brick mold that brick dies to, or they're a plaster ground that plaster grounds to, or they're there's something besides your interior casing, because your interior casing is not meant to be outside.
Mhm.
So, the ideal casing for my money, I love plaster because I like bullnose plaster. So you waterproof and make your building watertight, and then your lather does his job. He also, does his job with the waterproofing, but he also laths and creates metal lath that finishes all your openings with bullnose. And so with all your openings bullnosed, you guys at home can't see this. So I want you to see this. With that, would you, John? A little bit this way. So if this is a cutaway, right? Cutaway at jam, looking down on it. This is the inside of the house. And this is the outside of the house, the exterior. And here's our jam. It's a rabbited jam. Stops rabbited in, it's got a screen rabbit. The door sits in here like that. There's the knuckle of the butt hinge. If it's going to be cased, your framing is like this, cased on the inside. Drywall flushes with your jam, and then your casing lands with about a 1/4 inch reveal. There's a streamline casing. That's inside. Now, outside, if you're plastering and you're not using some kind of plaster ground, then I like a bullnose. So your lather laths. This is all waterproof, right? Your lather laths with metal like this, and he plasters. So your plaster bullnoses into your jam. That's called bullnose. And you can do that on the inside too. Inside jams are also bullnose, where the framing is flush, right? The drywall's out here and it bullnoses to the jam and bullnoses to the jam. So the bullnose or beadex takes the place of the casing. So there's no applied casing if the wall bullnoses into the jam. So therefore, in 3.5 inch framing, in a cased opening on the interior, you need at least 4 3/4, because you got 3.5 inches of framing and 2 pieces of 5/8. That's 5/8 and 5/8 is 1 1/4 plus 3.5 is 4 3/4. So really 4 13/16. You want to be a little bit plus. You would want a 4 13/16 jam to case it with 5/8 drywall. If you're going to bullnose it, then you want a 3.5 inch jam. Your jam is exactly the width of your framing. Got it? Okay, so this is all pretty easy, right? 3 times 7, 10, 16, 7 times 15. Answer, somebody. What is it?
105.
Thank you. Wait, what's 8 times 24?
22?
Okay, it's 8 times, it's 192, but here's how I get there, stuff like this. You can do this just like that on paper, right? Without using your calculator, and you can take 8 times 4 and put 32 down there, right? And then put a 0, and then do 8 times 2, 16, so that you'd be adding 116 and 32, right? It's 192. But I can do that in my head just as easy. And how I do it is I do it just like that. I go, okay, 8 times 20 in my head, 8 times 2 is 16, add a 0 in my head. I know that's 160. I know 8 times 20 is 160 in my head. And so I can hold that in my head. And then my head goes 8 times 4 is 32. So in my head, I just add 32 to 160, 192. And I could do that some in my head pretty easy. And mainly because I break it down and its component parts. Because it's really easy to multiply anything buy anything with a zero on it, right?
Mhm.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? You just add the zero and then two times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. And then you get into, sums like 34 times 68. I would not try to do that in my head. Just, it's not gonna work for me. I could do it, but why would I do that? So, 34 times 68, we would do, 4 times 8 is 32, carry the 3, 4 times 6 is 24, so that's 278, and then add the 0 and then 2, right? You all understand how that works. And if you don't, please say something, and we'll go over it. We'll keep going over it till you got it. I want everybody to get this. I have noticed over the years of teaching construction for a dozen years that I have had a whole lot of individuals in my class that really struggled with math. Struggle with times tables, struggle with whole numbers, division, multiplication, from all the way of really not understanding the basics of what we've been going through to having trouble with fractions and decimals. So for the most part, it feels like to me, like you guys are all pretty savvy on the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing whole numbers, which will make it a lot easier to do fractions. Then you get into some larger, right? 673 times 1432. Does anybody want to do that?
Hey,
Good.
Rodney, I have a question for you.
Fire away.
For your exams, are you gonna be testing us on problems like that? Or
Yeah.
are they gonna be more like real application?
No, they'll be both. They'll be both. You'll have stuff right out of the book.
Yeah.
Right out of the review questions of the book, they'll just be sums. Addition, multiplications. You'll have some questions just exactly like that.
Okay.
But I would say most of your questions will be more like, a roof is X by X, how many sheets, 4 by 8 sheets. And if that, in the problem previous, if the sheets cost so much a square. So for instance, we haven't got to this yet. We're gonna get to it, but solid stock, different than sheet goods, is sold by the board foot. And it's actually sold by the mill board foot. You guys hear me at home? Yeah. It's sold by the mill board foot. That's the 1,000 board feet. So fir that used to be $425 a thousand, which translates to $4.25 a hundred, is now like $11.50 a thousand. This is insane. I mean, lumber's going through the roof, but solid stock lumber, cabinet grade lumber and dimensional lumber, board store lumber is all sold by the board foot. All sold by the board foot. By the mill board foot. It's priced by the 1,000 board feet, and then you can move the decimal place 2 places. You know how much dollars are, not by thousands, 3 places rather. And sheet goods, all sheet goods, which are generally 4 by 8, plywoods, melamines, MDFs, OSBs, all the stuff that comes in sheets is all sold by the mill square foot, like 1,000 square feet. And it's typically like when I was buying white oak in quantity, I was paying $2,250 MDF per 1,000 board feet. You just move this 1, 2, 3 places, it's 2 1/4 a board foot. So $2,250 for 1,000 board feet. And I want to know what 1 board feet is. 1,000 is, I just got to move my decimal point. If you remember how ones, tens, and thousands stacked up, 1, 2, 3 places. And now it's $2.25 for 1 board feet. And a sheet of white oak plywood, $250, $2,500 for 1,000 square feet translates to $250 a square foot. 32-foot sheet, 75, $80 plus tax. Don't forget tax too. So here's the thing about tax. What's the sales tax now?
I think 8%.
It's only like 7.2 or something along those lines.
No,
I thought it was nine.
no, you guys actually don't know what the. It's, depends on where you are, what county, but generally it's 8.5%. Pretty sure it's 8.5%. I should know. TOT tax is 12%. Pretty sure it's 8.5%, but regardless. what was I gonna tell you about that? Oh, so a lot of people don't want to pay tax, right? So let's just say it's 8%. It's been 8.25, it's been 8.5, it's 8.75 in some other county, but 8%. If you spend $1,000, 8% of $1,000 is $80, right? So if you buy something for $1,000, you pay state sales tax on it of at least $80. So would you like to save yourself that $80? Everybody would like to save. Everybody would like to not pay taxes, right? You can't not pay taxes. You're going to pay anyway. If you buy your goods with a resale number and don't pay tax on them, then when you sell your products, you have to pay. You have to sell them with sales tax. And then you have to do all the paperwork. You have to collect the sales tax. So now you do their job. So I would rather just pay the sales tax on that end and be done with it. And not have a resale. Buy wholesale. I not buy wholesale, period, but pay the tax. Because if I don't pay the tax, it's been argued, and there's a legal thing going, I don't know if it's still going on, but I used to operate from, if I buy the materials tax-free, and I incorporate them into a product that I install as a permanent part of your house, then I don't have to pay tax. I don't have to do the sales tax. But there were some questions about whether that was legal. It was never really worked out to my satisfaction. So at one point in my career, 25 or 30 years ago, I said, that's it, I'm done with the resale number. I'll just pay the tax. And I felt good. I paid the tax. I built it into my estimates, the tax, because somebody's going to pay that tax. So if you have to charge, if you buy something with a resale number and then have to charge your customers with sales tax, that you don't keep that sales tax. That's not your money. You're just doing the state's job for you. That's all you're doing, man. You're handling the money for them. And then once you start handling the money, they're going to want to know where that money is. They'll send you a bill next year going, hey, where's our X amount of dollars for the state sales tax you have to pay? And you say, oh, I didn't have any sales. And they're going to say, prove it. We're going to audit you. That's my take on sales tax. Don't forget the tax. All right. So a business that sells garden sheds profits 2.25 a shed. What would their profit? 24 times 2.25, right? I could do that in my head, but I'm not going to. It takes too much brain power right now. So all this is stuff. Does anybody have any questions about any of these as you read them without me reading them for you? Any questions about, you want me to do any of these problems? Shall we do any of these problems? No, you're good? Yeah, Zach?
So on that one, 30.
30, okay, let's do it.
No, not that. It's more a construction question. It says 2 pieces of casing to trim windows.
Yeah.
What 2 sides are those? Or how?
Well, those 2 pieces. Those 2 pieces would be for the 4 legs for a miter framed, for a picture frame window. So I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm gonna give you some really good information, then we're gonna take a break. I'm gonna stop the share so my people at home can see. We'll just turn this off for now. After I do this, lights on. After I answer Zach's question, thank you, Louis. After I answer Zach's question, we're going to take a break. But so Zach's question was how many pieces of casing does it take to do a window?
Well, it says 2.
It
I'm
says
just
2.
curious where those go.
Yeah, so what they mean by that, two pieces, is that they're gonna get two legs out of each piece. You can't case a window with two pieces of anything. Like two, because it has, depending upon how you case it. If it's a mitered frame window, you're gonna have four pieces of casing, four legs, head, bottom, two sides. Or if you trim out your window in a classic trim that has a stool and apron, then you're only gonna need three pieces of trim, because your apron trim is gonna be different. So here's a window. It just so happens to be a 3030 window. And in picture frame configuration of casing, let's say you're using a 2.5-inch Colonial, you're gonna miter that casing on all the way around, and you're gonna, what we call picture framing. You're gonna, I mean, a standard reveal is a 1/4 inch. So looking at the jamb cutaway, right, of the window, this is the inside, you want to leave about a 1/4 inch reveal. There's your bad approximation of a Colonial case. You're gonna leave about a 1/4 inch reveal. Show you on the doors of the other classroom board, not in the other classroom. And that's a picture frame casing for a window. And that's on the interior. On the outside, it could be something different. It could be this as well, but it could be something different. It could have nailing flanges and stucco. I won't get into that right now. I don't want to get you too confused. But that classic way to trim out a window on the inside. This particular window is 3x3. There's the jamb. There's the top and bottom rails. It's a double hung. There's top rail, top rail. There's your window. You would do a stool that comes out just past the width of your casing. Drop your casing butted down to it, miter it. And then on the same line as your casing, an apron trim. And then even classicer, or more classic, like a Craftsman style. You guys see the board over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just move it this way. You guys see the board at home? And even more, what I consider more classic style, or what I consider Craftsman style, let's take our window, and let's do it Craftsman style. Let's do a stool and an apron. Let's do a butted head. So a typical Craftsman style window, this is 1 inch thick, 5 inches. This is 4 inches, 4 inches, 3/4 thick, 3/4 thick. This is 1 inch thick. This is just 3/4. This is also 3/4, right? And this is the same as your casing. So with this inside view, if this is the bottom of the window, the stool either goes on top and acts as a stop or comes right up, but it planes out. Usually there's a little bit of a back bevel, and then it has the apron trim below it, right? And then your casing dies on it. That's a cross section looking through of that, right? Stool. Oh, and on the outside of the window, that beveled piece right there with the drip curve, what's that called? On the exterior of the window. That's called a sill. That's not a sill. On the interior, if you see that ledge, that deck, that's called a stool. Typically, it's run about a 1/2 inch, 3/8, it depends, past the casing. So there's a reveal, and then the casing, same thing on the head. The head is thicker than the legs. So the eased edges, right? This 1 inch headpiece has edges that are eased. They're not square. So your casing is butting in right under the eaves. If they were the same thickness, eased edge, you'd butt into it and you'd have this weird thing there. So by making this a 1-inch head or a 3/4 head, 1/2 inch legs, doesn't matter, as long as the head's thicker, then your legs can butt to the head. You can have that nice eased edge run right on through. And I can show you that if anybody's really interested in the, on the classroom. Okay, where were we? Taking a break. Let's go. You want me to start recording again, okay? All y'all over there, my Zoom people or Zach or somebody, let's pause this record. Come on back, you guys. Come on back.
Oh, hello.
Come on back. There you go. There's Brandon, there's Miguel, there's Michael. All right, so window casings, you guys saw that? You guys at home on the Zoom, so let's go, we're gonna now go back to the book and whip through division. I'm gonna need my light bearer. And by the way, has Jesus shown up or Joel Santos? Joel, Jesus? No. Okay. Lights, please. Thank you.
Both of them are going dark.
Dark. Darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, fine.
Come to talk with me. Okay, not off there yet. Come on, minor. Right. So y'all heard that about 2 pieces of casing, trim the windows are probably 2 long pieces. So 36 by 16, right? You do 16 times 36, double that. That'd give you your square feet for the roof, and then probably round up because roofing is sold in 100 square foot increments. A roofing square is 100 square feet. Roofs are called out by squares. So let's just do this one. 16 times 36, what is it? Well, I would do
360.
360 plus 180 plus 216, so it's
1,200,
5. What is it now?
1,200.
No, I'm saying it's 360 plus 180 plus 216 is 506. Is that what you said? 506? I think that's right. So 506, so that's one side. So it's 1,012, right? If that's the case, let's just see if that's right. We'll dispense with the longhand for at this point for our class. Yeah, equals 576 and 506. Right, I'm just gonna double check that. So 16 times 36 equals 576 times 2 equals 1152. So 1152, how many roofing squares would you order for an 1,152 square foot roof?
1,200.
1,200. You would not order 1,100. You wouldn't want to be short. Rather to have a few, because you're gonna maybe break some or cut some wrong or something.
Yeah, we'll cut off too.
Yeah, true. You could have shingles that you cut on the edges. Exactly. Truss company needs 14 gang plates, 7 aside, blah, blah, blah. Contractors will, okay, contractor foreman works 52 hours at 22. 3 carpenters work 46 hours at 16. And then 1 helper worked 44 hours at 9. What was the total contractor wages? All right, I'm gonna use my calculator. See who can come up with it first. You guys can use your calculator too.
Yeah.
3748.
Okay, you got it faster than me. I like that. So you added up the sum of the quotient of 22 times 52, 46 times 16, and 44. Oh, you see even more than that, right? So does anybody else come up with that?
The total?
Yeah,
I'm
total.
in the process of.
And so what was your number?
2276.
2276. Okay, I want to see if I get that too. So
That's what you got there.
No, we got 3748.
yeah, I don't think that's right. I think I see where you missed it. So
Got it twice.
yeah,
3748.
and then let me see. And then so I get, let's see if I get what you guys get. Okay, what was the answer?
3748.
Did everybody else get that? Did anybody else get that? Everybody else got that? You got that, Ben?
3748.
Who else? So what you did, Louis, is you forgot that there were 3 carpenters
No, I got all three.
that worked at 46. So 3 carpenters. So you had to take 3 times 46 times 6,
Oh, yeah,
right? Or 46 times 48. Either one would have worked.
Yeah.
You see that, right?
yeah.
You could have taken those 3 carpenters times 46 hours. So 3 times 46 would be 138 hours. Or you could have taken 46 hours times 48. Same thing. You would come up with the exact same. Wouldn't you? I'm pretty sure.
Got it.
Isn't that right? I want to see if that's right. Is that right? If I did that, so. God, our calculators are quite long. Why have we been doing anything else? What it is. Yeah. Oh, no. That's not right. Yeah, that's bad. That can't be right.
That's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. I don't know what I was pushing in there, but yeah, it's the same. It's a great thing about numbers. Plus, thing about numbers that I have to be careful with is that, especially at this time of night, this time of the evening, if I start getting a whole bunch of numbers in my head, I can get kind of loopy, punchy about numbers, right? So I've got to probably slow down just a little bit. Okay, so let's get into dividing. All right, let's get into dividing whole numbers. So our objectives after studying this unit, we're gonna be able to divide whole numbers, solve division problems with remainders, check division problems with multiplication, and solve division problems with denominant numbers. Division is the last of 4 basic mathematical operations. While subtraction was thought of as the inverse of addition, division is thought of as the inverse of multiplication. Division is the operation of separating a quantity into a specific number of equally sized portions. For example, if you needed to know how many times 7 can go into 84, this can be determined by subtracting 7 multiple times. After multiple steps of subtractions problems, we determine that 7 can go into 84 a total of 12 times. And if you go back to your times tables, I don't think it goes up to 12, does it? But so
It does, sorry. I think the square.
it does. You think in the square it does? I think it probably is right. So, typically your times tables, you all learned young, went up to the 9s. You didn't need to do 10s, right? Because 4 times 10 is 40, 6 times 10 is 60. So you didn't do 1s because 1 times 8 is 8. So you did the times tables 2 through 9. That's great. Didn't need to do 10. 11s are relatively easy, but you need 12s because 12 is a unit that we use all the time in construction because there's 12 inches into a foot, right? So 12s is good. So you should know immediately how many 12s in 84. You should know that that's 7 feet. Just like you should know that 96 in inches represents 8 feet. So your 12 tables. 2 times 12, 24, 3, 36, 48, 60, 72, all the, right? 12, your 12 tables are pretty important. So try to get those in your head. And if you don't practice, you'll get them. Using division, this problem can be solved much faster with fewer steps. Division signs placed between the numbers to signify a division problem. Using division, the problem can be solved much faster with fewer steps. And so wrote out horizontally, 84, there's the divided by, that symbol right there, between the 84 and the 7, that means divided by. So 84 divided by 7 equals 12. And this division problem can be expressed in multiple ways. 84 divided by 7 equals 12. Didn't I just say that? There are 12 sevens in 84. 12 goes into 84 7 times. 7 divides into 84 12 times. You can say it a bunch of times. And here's example. A division is useful in determining quantities of materials or performing estimates. A carpenter uses division to determine how many sheets of subfloor to buy to cover a 40 by 36 foot floor system. So let's just do that problem. 40 times 36, that should be an easy one for all of us. 40 times 30 is 1200. 40 times 6 is 240. So 1440 is the answer. 1440 square feet is the answer. Now we need to divide 36 into it because, I'm sorry, we need to divide 32 into it because 32 is the quantity of square feet in these 4 by 8 sheets, right? 4 times 8 equals 32. So what do we say, 1440? So we're going to use our calculator again this time. Clear, 1440 divided by, got the divided by symbol on there, by 32 equals exactly 45 sheets. So I now would get 45 sheets. I wouldn't get 46 sheets. I'd get 45. If it said 44 and change, I'd get 45. If it said 45.2, I'd probably get 46. But it says 45 on the money, and it's and the other thing is it's in great increments for us because our 4 by 8 sheets and it's 36, right? So 4 across you're gonna have 4 foot across is gonna be 9 sheets across, and it's 40 long. They're 8 feet long. I'm gonna have 5 sheets. So that works out perfectly for full sheets. And of course you can see you see the way that's done. That's a pretty important thing to notice on that floor sheet here is you see the joints are all staggered. You always want to stagger your joints, always. Whether you're doing a vertical wall, drywall, or some kind of sheeting, or whether you're doing a floor, you never want to have these joints going in a line. You want to always stagger. So this is probably these are all 8s, right? This row, it's all 8s. That's a 4-footer, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, and then the offcut of that 4. All 8s, and then a 4-footer, right? Multiply the length of the floor system by the width to determine the area, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, we were right. 45 sheets. Oh, wait, there's another example. Another example. How many pieces of 8-foot base would be needed to cover a 40 by 36 room? Well, now a 40 by 36, we're not doing square feet, are we? Because we have lineal feet of trim. It has nothing to do with square feet, lineal feet only. So how do we get that without looking at the stupid answer? We get it by taking 40 twice and 36 twice, right? It's a square root. It's 40 by 36. So it's 40, 36, 40, 36. 2 40s is 80. 2 36s is 72. 72 and 80 is 152, right? 152. So that's 152 lineal feet. And then if you have an FU factor or a waste factor, 10%, 15%, you want to add that to it too. Let's see what they say. Okay, it's 152 feet and they're 8-foot sticks, 19 pieces of trim. So another news flash. Ready? Everybody at home ready too?
Yes.
If you're running base and you're running a relatively standard, or not even that standard, it's a good sized base, 4.5 inch base, and it's profile, and it's paint graded. It's not going to stain, it's going to paint. Buy MDF. Buy MDF, man. Buy MDF. It's a little thinner. It's a little bit harder to work, but you're going to pay $1 a foot, not $5 a foot. And you're going to get all 16-foot lengths, all 16-foot lengths, and maybe even 18s. They might even make it 18s. They're making long lengths. You can afford to buy well over, because it's dirt cheap compared to wood. It's not as fun to nail or sand or do anything else with, but it cuts fine, glues together, and it does nail. You can get that stuff fastened on the wall. You can make it look really good. Like my two-piece crown molding, my big sprung cove in my dining room, that's a MDF cove. My mantle surround, and a big 8-quarter poplar solid stock mantle. And I've got this big sprung cove underneath, 5 3/4 sprung cove. That's all MDF. That would have cost, instead of $1, whatever I paid for, $1.50 a foot, it would have cost $6 or $8 a foot in a piece of solid stock. Poplar, say. So, and the reason I told you that is because if you're buying baseboard and if you're buying 8-foot sticks, you're stupid. I'm just kidding. You're never going to be stupid, because none of you are stupid. But if you're doing baseboard, don't buy 8-footers. Unless it's an 8-foot long. Because typically you want as long a run as you can get. And you buy MDF, baseboard's relatively cheap. So, you got a 12-footer, call it a 16. You know what I mean? And because whenever you can avoid splicing, running trim. So finished carpenters install standing and running trim. Casing, standing trim. Running trim would be chair rail, baseboard, crown mold. It runs around the room. The longer the length, the better. If you can get full wall lengths, that's the best. The least amount of splice, you'll have a better looking job, and it'll be ultimately easier for you to pull off, even if you have to use another person. But there's all kinds of ways to do that without another person. Use nails, and you temporarily put stuff, and you use waste blocks that show you what the corners do. And there's lots of tricks to installing molding. That's another class. That's CT 115. So here's how you divide whole numbers. Well, addition plus subtraction minus multiplication times each has a symbol to identify their operations. Division can be identified by 4 symbols, and the methods to set it up. There's the division bracket, which is how we do it longhand. There's the division sign. There's the division bar. So that division bar, what does that mean? 84/7. It means the bottom number is going to divide it by. That's what it is. Always the bottom number divides into the top. Always when it's represented like that. That's what fractions are. And that if that as a fraction, that would be considered a uncommon fraction. And we'll get to that, but not tonight. And then there's a slanted bar, which is 84. That the slanted bar following a number means it's divided. The number following is the number you divide into the number. This to the left-hand bar. Because the division problems can be set up using multiple symbols, it's important to learn the terminology and definitions associated with a common division problem. You have the quotient, and you have the dividend, and you have the divisor. So the dividend, 84, is what you're dividing into. The number that you're dividing into it is the divisor, and the answer is the quotient. So 12 is the quotient for 7 into 84. 7 being the divisor, 84 being dividend. Now, this is not lingo or vernacular you're going to use much. But if you can remember quotient, that's the answer to a division problem. What's the quotient? And you'll sound really smart, especially if somebody asks you to spell it and you remember how to spell it. So the dividend is the number being divided into smaller parts. The divisor is the number which the dividend is being divided. Quotient is the number of times the dividend is divided by the divisor. I could get kind of confused. Well, it's easy to recognize that 24 divided by 12 equals 2. Calculators are needed on many division problems because of their complexity. When working on a job site where a calculator may not be available, the long division bracket method can be used to solve complex, and I mean complex division problems. Let's just see how complex we can get. So let's set up a problem by placing the dividend and the divisor in their correct locations. So we know we want to divide 1968, which is the dividend, by 8, which is the divisor. So here's how we do it. I'm not going to read the thing above, but we first start out with the 1. We go 8 into 1. We can't go 8. 8 does not go into 1. So we go to the next number and we make it 18. So 8 does go into 18. How many times does 8 go into 18?
Twice.
Exactly. Now 8 does not go equally into 18, but 8, we know that 8 times 2 is 16. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put 2 above the 9. It's actually not 18, it's 19. We're gonna put 2 above the 9, and then we're gonna go 2 times 8 and put 16 below. And then we're going to subtract the 16 from the 19 and come up with 3. Okay, and then we're going to drop the next number in. I'm going to make that, put the 6 next to the 3, and that's going to make it 36. Now we're going to divide 8 into 36. Goes how many times? Well, right there, 4. Not equally, right? But we know it goes 4. 5 times 8 is 40. That's too much. We can't use that. So we'll do 4. It's less than 36. So we'll put the 4 up there next to the 2, making it 24. And then we'll go, 4 times 8 is 32. We'll write that there. We'll subtract the 32 from the 36. And we'll wind up with the remainder of 4. We're going to drop the last number, 8, all the way down, 48. We're going to divide the 8 into 48, which does go equally 6 times. So there's our answer. 8 into 1968. It's 246. Now here's how I do it in my head. 8 into 1600 goes 200 times. 200 times 8. That's easy. That just comes in my mind. All right. That leaves 368. Then I don't have to go a little further. So 8 times 40. So right. So I could break that down in my head. I can hold 3 columns in my head, but beyond that, I can't. But the other thing is that as long as I got a pencil and a piece of paper, I can do this problem and I know I'm going to have the exact right answer. And I know I'm going to have the exact right answer because I can always check my right answer. If I don't have a calculator, I can still check my right answer because every quotient that you come up with, that 246, if you want to know if it's the right answer, just multiply it times your divisor. So 8 times 246 is going to give you 1968. If you did something wrong and you got 244, it won't give you the right answer. You know you messed up. So to check, if you ever need to check your answer, just multiply your quotient times your divisor, and it comes up with your dividend. You did it. Keeping numbers properly aligned, it's really good. So now there are remainders. There are division problems that don't, where the divisor does not go into the dividend equally, which means there's going to be a remainder. So here's how we do that. Kind of put R3. That's just weird. Nobody does remainders anymore. Just carry it out in decimals. Let's just skip through that because I don't even want to show you how to do remainders. Who cares about remainders? Nobody cares about remainders. So there's checking, right? And that gets right into denominant numbers. So I guess it'll get into the decimals. I guess we'll get into that. But nobody does remainders anymore. So 6 into 39 is not 6 with a remainder of 3. It's 6.33333. And when we get to that, I'll show you if you're confused at all. But you're never going to use the remainder. You're just not going to use it. There's no math in carpentry that uses that remainder. It's like, yeah, it goes into that X amount of times with a remainder. No, it won't be a remainder. It'll be point. It'll be a decimal that you can reduce to a fraction, convert to a fraction, or understand what a decimal is. And let's just do one, just for the hell of it. No, it's not. Let's just keep going. I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm sure that we'll get to that when we get into fractions. We have to, or I'll back up to it. I know they'll do it. When dividing a denominant number by a whole number, the denominant number's unit of measure is applied to the final answer. For instance, 12 yards divided by 3 equals 4 yards. 18 feet divided by 6 equals 3 feet. Simple stuff. 81 square feet divided by 9 equals 9 feet, right? 81 square feet divided by 9 equals 9 feet. And of course, and to prove it, 9 times 9 is 81. Now, what's the significance of 81 square feet? There's no significance. Okay. Equal spacing of posts. Ooh. So, division is an operation that's often used to space objects out equally. For example, during the erection of a fence, locations need to be established and drilled for the fence posts. The 56-foot fence is built with 9 equally spaced poles. Division is used to determine the post spacing. Now, I have a way of determining centers for balustrades, so you have equal spacing. And I'm not going to use it on this because this is a fence. It's a little bit different. There's a couple of ways to do this. Let's see how they do it. I think they're doing it the way I was thinking about doing it. Since there will be 8 spaces, right? So you got nine posts. By the way, there's always one less space than there are posts, joists, whatever, right? So if you got 9 posts create 8 spaces. If you have 10 posts, how many spaces?
9.
If you have 15 posts, how many spaces?
14.
Okay. And that applies to risers, right? Risers and treads. So you have one more riser than treads, but that's another class too.
Rodney, are they splitting it one center? Because it looks like from the edges that they're.
Yeah, I don't think they're using centers to do this. They want equal spacing. So there's 2 ways to come up with equal spacing. I like the centers way of doing things because on balustrades it works when you're working with the like 6 and 5 foot increments, you know, inch increments, so you can do it 4 inches or less in spacing, because your guardrail spacing on a balustrade has to be 4 inches or less, not greater. 4 inches or less, and that's code, and they can be sticklers about that spacing on guardrails. And I'll probably have a handout when I get to doing staircase layout for you. But so we want 8 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want them equal, and we want them as equal as we can get them, so we can cut the same numbers when we cut our bottom and top rails to make our fence panels, right? So let's see how he does it. Since there will be 8 equal spaces between the 9 poles, the 56-foot length will be divided by 8. 56 divided by 8 equals 7. Through division, it has been determined that spacing from post to post will be 7 feet. Well, that's not right. That's absolutely wrong. It's wrong as wrong can be. If you were to take that thing and do 7-foot spacing, you'd have a run of which you'd have 58 and a half feet of fence. You would not have 56 feet of fence. You have 58 feet of fence. Does anybody else see that? And follow along with me if you will. I got a laser somewhere. What the hell am I doing? I'll just point up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. If there's 7 feet, that's 56 feet, right? 8 spaces is 56 feet. What about the posts? The posts are all 3.5 inch posts. There's 9 of them. 9 times 3.5 is what? 27. and 4.5 is 31.5 inches. That's 2 foot 7.5. So you'd have to add that to that. That'd actually be 58 foot 7.5 would be that dimension to that dimension. If you really want equal spacing, you got to take the 56 feet, subtract the 31.5 inches, and then divide that by 8. You follow me? Because you don't have 56 inches of space. You have 56 inches of space with 31.5 inches of solid posts that you got to take out if you're just determining the spaces. So then you'd set a post, make a space of, well, in this case, I would do it in centers. And when we do baluster layout, it's the same thing can work out in fence posts. But if you were doing 56 feet, you'd want to take those 9 posts, 9 times 3.5, take that number, convert it into feet, take it away from the 56, and then divide the 56 by 8. Okay? I'm not going to do it unless you guys want me to. I figure you got that, right? If anybody doesn't see it, I'll do it. And we'll do it out longhand. I'll do it on the calculator. So that's just really stupid. If you ask me, I thought they'd be better than that. Divide the following numbers without the use of a calculator. Show all your work. Okay. Matthias, do the first one. What is it? What's 35 divided by 7?
5.
Exactly. Jose, what's 12 divided by 3?
4.
Excellent. Right on down the line.
3.
Tell me your first name again.
Matthew.
Matthew. Exactly. Number 4. 4 divided by 24. Dylan.
6.
Excellent. And then Lewis, 45 divided by 9?
Yeah.
There you go.
45 divided by 9 is what?
5.
Thanks. You guys got this. Okay, 6 into 210. Now we're gonna have a remainder on this. I happen to know because 6 is not going to 21. So let's just go ahead and do it. So 6 into 21 goes 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. That leaves a 3 remainder. Drop the 0. 6 goes into 35 times. So it actually does go to 9. I didn't even know that. 2 tens. So it's actually what, 35, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So 35. So 6 times 35 is 210. How about that? But you see how that's done, right? You see how long division is done? Does anybody not understand long division? Okay. Let's do that one. Okay. The last one, number 14, which is 249 divided by 170,000, or divided into, oh, thank you, 170,316. God, I was wondering why I couldn't see that. So let's see who can work this one out without a calculator, okay? See, the first one to work it out. Let's say that's columns are really important. Kind of 5, 9, 2, 9. 0, 2. Drop, that's 3, 1, 6, right? Drop the 1. That's going to go into that 8 times 2. 7, 3, 2, so 9, 0. And then drop the 6. So that goes. That's enough.
I'll learn an exam, what would we want to have a calculator? Because in the real world.
Yeah, no, you'll be able to use calculators. But I may have a couple of problems where I want you to do without a calculator. For the most part, you'll be able to use your calculator, but I may have a problem or two that I want you to do longhand. I haven't decided yet, but for the most part, yes, you'll be able to use it. And, but being able to get it like this is pretty important, I think. Okay, so who's got the answer? I got it. 683. No. Matthias got it. Anybody else? 684, longhand. Okay, so yes, you know, but that took a couple minutes. So you can punch this into a calculator. You can punch this into a calculator and have the answer like immediate. But being able to do it longhand, know how to do it longhand, how to divide longhand is going to be important, because at some point in your life, there may come a time where you won't be able to use your calculator or your phone. And you're going to want to divide something. And if you don't know how to do it longhand, it's going to be a problem for you. Not to mention, I'm convinced that by learning the basics, by having the basics, by having the time, so by working out things in your head, what you do is you exercise your mind. You exercise your cognitive ability. You exercise your mind to hold on to things, right? To remember things and to make leaps and connections. That's exercise. Like your mind is a muscle. If you don't use your mind, it gets flabby. And you get your students. You are all using your mind, so you're being intellectually stimulated. Numbers is a whole other part of that stimulation. So, and everything's about numbers. And Matthias, mask up. We're the only guy in here besides me, and I'm the one doing the talking. That's why I'm not masked. Thank you very much. Okay, so that was a hard one, and you guys came through with flying colors. Way to go, Matthias. There's somewhere over there. Grab a brand new one. You can have one every day if you want. Take them home. Okay, so are there any of these that you guys would like to do? Anything you see in here that you find intriguing? Does everybody understand the principles behind division? Okay, and how to do long division? How to do and carry it down? You all learned that, I imagine, right? When you were kids, how to do long division? Yeah, everybody? I don't know anymore. They told me about this new math. I have no idea what that is. So I'm assuming you can all divide. And then let's see what this stuff says. So how long does it take to install 450 square foot of hardwood flooring at the rate of 75 square foot an hour? Well, it's 75 into 450, right? What is that? 6, right? Yeah, that's 6. So it takes 6 hours. The room measures 14 by 16, blah, blah, blah. How many 4-foot pieces can you cut from a 16-foot board? That's a bit the easy one. So these are all pretty simple. All of these questions, trusses every 2 feet. Well, this might be good. Okay, so a 72-foot long pole barn needs trusses installed every 2 feet. How many trusses, including the trusses at the front and the back of the 72-foot barn, need to be ordered?
36.
36.
37. It's 37 because you always need one more than spaces, right? Every 2 feet, so you're gonna have 2-foot spacing, and you're gonna have you've got 72-foot long. So if you divvy that guy up, 2-foot spaces, there's gonna be 36 of them, 36 trusses plus 1. If it was floor joists or rafters, it'd all still be +1. One more member than space. So if you ordered 36 and went, dude, it's 72 foot and they're 2-foot spacing, I got 36. Yeah. The one on the end, you wouldn't have enough. You just wouldn't have enough. The room below will be used to answer problems 26 and 28. Okay, so how many sheets of subfloor needed to cover this floor system? Well, obviously, each sheet covers 32 unless they're 4 by 10s. But you can count on sheet goods that you're gonna be dealing with for the most part, 99% of the time, are gonna be 4x8s. You can get 4x10s, and you can get 4x12s in some stuff. In some places that's like drywall, for instance. A lot of drywall is on 4x12. And it's tough to hang 4x12, but not for drywallers, I guess. But it just, it's like they hang 1.5 sheets every time they hang a 12-foot sheet. It's like hanging 1.5 sheets. So it's actually a pretty good way to go. But generally, 32 square feet is what you're going to be taking off. So, so how many sheets of subfloor each get 32? So 30 times 52 is what? 1560. Exactly 1560, right? 30 times 50 is 1500. And then 30 times 2 is 60, so 1,560 feet. 32 into that. I'm not going to do that long hand. Let's see. So what do we say? 1,560, right? No. 1,560 divided by 32. 48 3/4 sheets. How many sheets would we get? 49. We're going to get exactly 49 sheets. And then, so building the walls, this is all relatively simple stuff. We're gonna actually do problems like this based on plans. I'll get a plan to project for you. So I think you guys get it, right? Like how many, like, you see how this all applies. Oh, wait, what's this one? Oh, okay, so still, I didn't get that staircase. This is great. You guys see that? Everybody at home see that staircase? That's a really good shot of a stair string. Showing run, rise, total run, total rise. That's how we're gonna do stairs. That's how you're gonna lay out stairs. What you need to know about stairs is total rise, total run. Based on that, total rise, total run, you're going to come out with unit run and unit rise. Those are going to be unit run is going to be your tread, unit rise is going to be your riser, your step. And with those numbers, you're going to cut out your stair stringers, which are those guys right there. So, I mean, we know we've got a total rise of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 and 42, 6 or 6. That's a good rise. So your ideal stair, this is an aside, but we are going to get into cutting stairs, is 17.5. That's the total of unit rise, unit run, 17.5. That's your ideal stair, which really translates to a 10.5-inch step tread and a 7-inch rise. That's a very comfortable step. That's right in there, 17.5. A 6-inch rise would require an 11.5-inch tread. That's also a really good stair. I actually prefer a 7-inch rise. 8.25 is as much as you could have as a rise on any interior stair.
That's by code.
That's by code. And 3/8 of an inch is all you can have in difference from one riser to the next. So your risers need to be dead on. And if they're at all different than height, you can be off 3/8 of an inch legally by code. And there's a reason for that. Your feet get accustomed to that rise. And if it's slightly different, you can trip. So it's very important you make your rises all the same.
Did they actually measure them?
Sometimes, usually no. Depends on the inspector, if he knows you, or if he knows the framing, or he can see that the framing's done well, or he looks, because you can see, you can see when stuff is off. Guys, their eyes get trained for stuff like that. So rarely ever is it off. And it's the thing that, I'm always looking for, like, hey, this isn't gonna fly. You got 3/4 of an inch of difference in these rises. So make it happen. And then you have to take into account finished floor and tread heights. And we'll get into cutting stairs. It's really fun and easy. Once you get the concept, this is not hugely complex. It's really kind of easy. Okay. So here's our exam, section 1. like I said in the beginning, I'm gonna give you a midterm and a final. It's possible I will dream up or have you do quizzes on Canvas, but I'm gonna try to not give you any homework besides reading. I'm not gonna give you essays to write, you know. I may get a while here and ask you to do one of these tests, but not right now. I really don't want to burden you with homework, but I do want you to read, so you can kind of stay ahead of the stuff. Okay? So please read the chapters, and please, I don't think I put it in Canvas yet, but this should take us through Unit 1 tonight. And then we get into Unit 2 or Section 2 rather. And so Unit 5 gets us through dividing. We're looking at that exam right now, Unit 5 exam. And then Section 2 is fractions, right? And that's Unit 6 through 10. So that's your homework. We may not cover, so at least do 6 through 8. At least read 6 through 8. This book is $4.77 on Amazon if you're interested in it. If you've got Prime, have it tomorrow. 4 Agreements. I think it's a great book. I just love it. You know, when my wife, this Wichita trip, she's just wanking about her sister, or or her son. It's like, honey, let's be impeccable with our word. And you're just taking this personally. And you're just assuming all this stuff, man. It's like you're basing this whole thing on all these assumptions, which are not necessarily true. They don't mean anything, right? If you assume something about somebody, you're just making it up, man. If you really want to be impeccable with your word, go ask them about what you're assuming they're thinking or what they meant by that, right? Don't make any assumptions. This will help you out. So this all looks pretty easy, right? I mean, talking about easy. I will definitely, Matthias, in answer to that, and thank you for bringing that up. I will definitely have some questions where I'm going to want you to do them on here, just to demonstrate to me that you can do it. But for the most part, we'll be doing takeoffs and calculations, with square footage and sheets and how much stuff costs, millboard feet, all that stuff. Calculator all the way, okay? Calculator all the way. And I may change my mind, just do all calculator, because really, who doesn't have a phone or calculator? But I will, I think about it, I will have some questions where you won't be able to use a calculator, just to demonstrate to me and to you that you got the chops to do it if the lights ever go out. And the thing of it is if the lights ever go out, and I mean that literally, if the electricity goes down, I would give odds that 90% of the population would be dead in 3 months. 3 months, dead. Gone from the face of the planet. 90%. Because you know what your life's going to be around with no electricity, right? It's going to be around getting food. And once the stores are all looted and all the food that's available right here, right now is gone, that's it, man. What, you can think you're going to live off deer or fish? You're gonna all of a sudden start farming and have salads every night on your table? We know where we're going. I know where I'm going. I'm going to Lewis's garden, is where I'm going. But I think about, it's weird, I think about these apocalyptic scenarios. When the lights go off, when the power goes off, nothing's going to work. You're not going to be able to get gas for your car. Your refrigerators won't work. Your phones won't work. Your water won't work. Your gas won't work. All of it is controlled by electricity. None of it is controlled manually. It's all going to stop. That means you have no way to keep your food fresh. There won't be any way to keep food fresh. There won't be any gas to deliver food. There won't be any food in the grocery stores. So it'll all come down to food. It'll all come down to calories. It'll come down to what you got to do to keep you and your family alive. It's going to be crazy, man. It's good. And I'm not a doomsday guy, I just like, I have such an incredible, perfect life. It's like, it's beyond belief. It's almost like I gotta pinch myself sometimes. But if the lights went off, it wouldn't be all that perfect. It would be pretty far from perfect, man. It would be basically open the gun safe, get out the weapons, make sure they're working, and I got plenty of ammo, and then let's go from here. Because it's gonna get ugly fast. We can't, food, man. When you can't feed your family, it's gonna get crazy fast. So let's be thankful that we have what we have, and that we turn the switch and the lights come on, man, because it's the greatest thing in the world. It's like magic. So next week, read those, at least those 3 chapters about fractions, right? The first 3 chapters, because we won't even get that far. I'll figure divisions done, you know, and all of this stuff, these tests and exam in this book, I will be picking questions for you on the test. Some of those will be that, and then some will be based on a plan. We'll do some takeoffs on a plan, stuff like that. I'll make up some questions, but I'll use a lot of these questions. And do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Yes, Ben.
I get a little bit nervous because I don't understand the concept of, I don't know if I'm actually gonna say it correctly, the board foot. Or
Okay.
like that concept.
The
of-
mill board foot or board feet? Was it
Yeah,
the mill
once
board
again-
foot
Once
concept?
again, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, no, that's good, because a lot of people get confused by that. And the reason why I talk about mill board feet.
Or you can explain next week.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, just to clarify this with you, is that lumber is sold by the thousand board foot. Right? And lumber is measured by the board foot. So a board foot is 1 inch, like 12 inches, by 12 inches. It's a board foot, right?
Okay.
So a 1 by 12. Now 1 by 12, we know a dimensional board store 1 by 12 is 3/4 by 11.5. But we really, in board feet, it's sold as 1 inch by 12 inches. So for every foot of it, that's a board feet. So an 8-foot stick of 1 by 12 is 8 board feet.
Okay.
A 2 by 6, 2 by 6, 2 times 6 is 12.
Right.
Every 12 inches of that, every foot of that is a board foot. So an 8-foot 2 by 6 is also 8 board feet.
Okay.
So I will go over board feet with you guys, and then I'll extrapolate it to mill board foot and the pricing.
Okay.
But for purposes of argument now, just know that a board foot is a 1 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch piece of wood. Now, when we get into calculating board feet, the formula for board feet is thickness times width in inches over 12 times length, or thickness times width in inches times length in feet over 12 also works. For instance, a 2 by 6 by 10 is 10 board feet, right? Because a 2 by 6, every foot of it is a board foot. So 10 feet is 10 board feet.
Gotcha.
So if you take if you take 2 times 6 times 10 and 12. 2 times 6 is 12. Times 10 equals 120. Divided by 12 equals 10. 10 board feet. That's the board foot formula. Width, or I'm sorry, thickness times width in inches times length in feet over 12. And it works with anything. It works with everything. So let's say you want to know what a 2 by 10 by 16 board feet in that, right? I have another way of doing it in my head. But how you do it like this is 2 times 10 is 20. 20 times 16 is 320 over 12. 12 and then 320. Somebody do it for me, please. And here's how I do it in my head. 2 times 10 is 20. But over 12 is 1 2/3. So 1 2/3 times 16 is 16 plus 2/3 of 16 is about 11. So it should be about 27 feet. 27 board feet. What do you get? 12 into 320?
26.6.
So, but I'll go over board feet until you're sick of it. So you understand board feet, because board feet and square foot is how we estimate. And we take that estimate and extrapolate it to numbers, to dollars, to find out how much this material is going to cost. Like, for instance, I met with Lewis today to look at doing some structures. And I did a little sketch. I might have left it in my car. No, I did a little sketch. I don't know if you can see this. Did a little sketch because I want to draw it to scale of the pad, a shade structure, just some dimensions and some notes. Why am I telling you this? Oh, because both Lewis and his boss, Mike Ganella, asked me, well, what's it going to cost? What's a ballpark? And I told him I don't ballpark ever. Then I did anyway. But with that sketch, I'll refine it because it's very simple. And I'll refine that dimension sketch to a scale drawing. And then with my scale drawing, and I can even do it off the sketch, I will make a material list. And I think we might do this in my 110 class as a lab, because I think we can kit do it. I think if we do this right, and he does the slab right, and he does the column bases the way I'm anticipating them to be done, we can pre-cut all the posts, all the headers, all the rafters, everything in the shop over there, and then one afternoon, evening, bring it over there and erect this thing. It'll be really fun. That's what Lewis is hoping too. So we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, take good care of yourselves. Be safe. Don't get COVID. See you back here next Thursday, 6 o'clock. We're on Zoom, you guys. Okay. And oh, did I ever? Yeah, I did. I started recording again. And please come if you can. Zoom if you can't. And please let me know if you're can't come.
Okay, thank you.
Later, Zach. Zach, you didn't even have to remind me to stop recording. You didn't have to remind me. Brandon, Eric, see you guys next week, eh?
Yeah.
You need help bringing the text.
Yeah, would somebody do that?
Anyway, you can quickly show me how to set up a stop.
Yeah. Let me show you. Okay, Eric, I'll see you next week, buddy. See you next week, Eric. Hey, Eric, see you next week.
Uh-huh.